Apparently, Luciani normally starts. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this Sacre meeting tonight. I'm going to start the meeting by asking for nominations for the chair for the next academic year. Can I have any nominations for chair, please? Beth?
I'd like to nominate Nigel Harman.
Are there any other nominations? Can I have a seconder? Yes, can I take a vote? I'm looking at the colleagues online as well. If you could raise your hand. All those in favor? Everyone is in favor in the room. I can see online as well. You're duly elected. I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you for that. I do think I appreciate that, but certainly I thank you for your confidence. So our second order of business is to elect a vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Beth Rowland.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Alison, thank you. Okay, shall we take a vote? All those in favour?
Am I allowed to interrupt?
Oh, yeah, you're allowed to interrupt.
So I joined Reading Sacre at the recent one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they were going through the same process in terms of voting a new chair and vice chair. And one of the things they have in their constitution is that they have to be from a different group. I'm not saying that that's something that's in our constitution, but that might be something we want to consider. And I think that's just about having, I don't know, a variety of views. Although, you know, sorry, that's not a criticism of Beth, and I think Beth's got a lot of experience. So we, just to.
Okay, no, I can see that.
Can I just say something? The other thing to consider is, I presume that in terms of organising things for the hub, because the way things have been before in the hub is that only the chair and the vice chair were at the hub, and then only the chair and the vice chair were involved in any discussions to do with the syllabus that mattered. And you're both free church. So it's a matter of religious diversity, thinking about things that way as well. I mean, to me, as long as when it comes to the hub, that there is proper religious diversity in the hub, then I'd be less concerned, but that's also
and I think that's noted, and I think when we come to our discussion on the hub, we can take that and run with it about making sure that we have proper representation on that. So that we do get diversity of views. But I think there has to be something that's overall for the hub and maybe not just for Wokingham Sacre to consider. So it's about, do we have the balance right on the hub when we come to discussions?
Yeah.
But
Chair, there's a hand up online. Sarah.
Sarah.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
Did she want to speak?
Did you want to speak?
No. I was logging on to a different laptop because the other one wasn't brilliant in hearing you.
Okay, thank you. Right, shall we go back? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Or is it just Beth? No other nominations? Okay, shall we take a vote on that? All those in favour of Beth being vice chair? Any against? Okay, so abstentions? Okay, Clara. Okay, noted. So Beth is now our vice chair. Now there is a suggestion that we change the order from the agenda items so that we deal with the ASC first before we then meet as a Sacre. Okay, so the idea is we convene as an ASC, we go through those amendments to the Constitution that we're looking at, and then we can relax and get on with our normal work once we've dealt with this administration. Now, the only issue was that Stephen previously was the chair of the ASC, and it's a slightly different role from the chair of Sacre. So you're happy for me to take on that role as the chair of the ASC for this evening? Okay, so if we're all happy with that, we will start working our way through that. So
Do you want me to?
Emily, yeah, if you could take us through the
Thanks, Nigel.
changes.
So yeah, I'm sure people won't have been expecting the syllabus to be on the agenda again, but it's only very minor amendments. So the situation is the syllabus has been approved by Wokingham Borough Council and adopted by them, and it's been shared with schools. But we're still in the process of me liaising with our design team to produce a nicely formatted version. And I've been going through the syllabus with a fine tooth comb, just checking that everything is exactly correct. And in the meantime, Shira's been working with colleagues in Bracknell to prepare a version of the syllabus for their Sacre to discuss. And between us, we've come up with a few minor amendments we've spotted that need changing. So they are all minor. I'm not expecting there to need to be much discussion about these, but I will take you through quickly what they are. And then I think the proposal is that we don't vote on them one at a time, but we just take one vote overall on all these changes together.
Is there a list of them anywhere?
There is. So in the agenda pack, I'm not sure what page it is.
Page 35.
So page 35, you've got the list of amendments. So there's a list of 15 amendments you should have. And also in the agenda pack, you've got the relevant pages from the syllabus to refer to. So the first amendment, number 1, is on page 5. And where it says of note is the current Ofsted's framework's emphasis, that needs changing because the framework that's being referred to is actually now not the current Ofsted framework because there's now a new Ofsted framework. So what it's referring to is the 2019.
They don't have that page number, just to let you know.
No, that's fine, Luciani. These page numbers refer to the syllabus.
Just to let you know that they don't have this page number.
Right, yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, so we just need to say that it's the 2019 to 2025 Ofsted framework. I think the word particular was actually previously included in a version of the syllabus, and for some reason it got taken out, but I think it does read better if it says of particular note. So that's that one. Number 2 on page 6 of the syllabus, there's a very long sentence that when I was proofreading this, I found it quite hard to make sense of it. And to me, the sentence makes more sense if you add the word places. So this places emphasis on thinking carefully, blah, blah, blah. Number 3 is something that's not essential, but it makes the sentence clearer. So it's saying that religious education must be accessible for all learners. This is particularly important when planning for teaching for those with special educational needs and disabilities who represent a large minority. And we're just proposing to add of learners onto the end of that sentence to make it clearer. Yeah. Number 4, in the section on Key Stage 4, it's talking about students who don't take the GCSE RS. And it says the expectation is that such students will build on prior learning. And it goes on to say covering any content that was not taught at Key Stage 3. And what I'm proposing is that we change it to the expectation is that teaching for such students will build on prior learning, because it's not the students on their own who are building on prior learning, it's their teachers who are building on their prior learning. Page 17, number 5, is the title page for the non-statutory bit of the syllabus. And it says this is to help you explore the questions. And I'm just proposing we change it to this is to help teachers to explore the questions, just because it sounds more formal and I just think it sounds more appropriate. Page 18, there's a sentence that's actually repeated for every key stage. So under EYFS, it says the content below is suggested. This is not intended to be an exhaustive list of everything that could be taught, nor is there any expectation that everything will be taught. And I'm just suggesting that we add the word suggested to after everything. So it would be, nor is there any expectation that everything suggested will be taught.
That makes more sense.
And that same sentence is said in the Key Stage 1 bit, lower Key Stage 2, upper Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3, just to make it clearer. Number 7 is the only bit that represents a significant change, and thank you to Shira for spotting this. With 2 of the humanism questions, the questions that are in the statutory bit of the syllabus do not match up with the content in the non-statutory bit of the syllabus. And what Shira recognised was that the questions that are in the non-statutory bit of the syllabus are the correct ones, and actually need to be changed in the statutory section. So there's a question that says, how do non-religious families recognise and celebrate important events in section 4.2, which is what it should be. But in the non-statutory section, the question given is what happens in families where there's no religion. So we just need to change that to match what it says in 4.2.
Sorry, I had my hand up for a while. Just to go back to number 6.
Sure, yeah.
Where it reads, nor is there is any expectation. There seems to be a superfluous is in that sentence.
Yeah, thank you for spotting that. So number 6, Shira, correction number 6. Alison's correctly pointed out that the final sentence I've got there under it says, nor is there is any expectation. So it should be, nor is there, cross out that is any expectation. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Expectation is that such students will build on prior learning. I look at this one on Wangels, there is no prior learning, there is no RE taught until year 10. Sorry?
Prior learning could mean what they learned in Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2.
It could, but if there is no learning at all, it could be, yes, but that's a long time ago when you get to year 10.
Yeah.
One of my daughters is at Wangels and they do study, they have something called Beliefs and Life. So I do know that she's studied things, so I don't know how they're reporting it, but I think perhaps the reporting's wrong rather than they're not doing anything.
Perhaps it's because they don't call it RE then.
Yeah, possibly.
Me to continue. So yeah, we were on number 7. So there's a similar thing with one of the other humanism questions, that in 4.3 we've got the question, how do non-religious families decide what is right and wrong, which we think is what was voted on, what it should be. But in section 3.4, the question that's given is, where do ideas about right and wrong come from for non-religious families? So we just need to change those two questions so that the question in the statutory section matches up with the question that's in the non-statutory section. Number 8 is just the changing to the wording of a sentence to make it clearer. And this was actually, I believe, Katie that suggested this rewording. It's just a bit of a clumsily worded sentence that says, how and why do Christians show commitment to God? Because Christians believe they will give an account for their lives at the end of what they have done for him and the gifts they were blessed with. It's just not a very clear sentence. Oh, thank you, Shira. So Shira's just reworded it as I've got there below, because Christians believe that at the end of their lives, they will give an account for their lives in terms of what they have done for him and the gifts they were blessed with, which is just clearer, isn't it? So. Number 9, now it's a shame we haven't got a Hinduism rep with us because they might be able to help with this, but to me, without having expertise in Hinduism, this sentence didn't sound like it made sense to me. So it says, religious storytelling or katha is linked to puja, apologies, I don't know how to pronounce that word, katha or puja, for example. Now, to me, it seemed like the word puja is probably repeated too many times, but that might be my lack of expertise.
May I suggest that we decide that sentence will be worded how, the same thing we did with Peace Be Upon Him, that I can ask, I've got a WhatsApp group with the Hindus, I can message them and ask them what wording they are happy with, and we can do that so that we know we get it right and we aren't guessing.
If people are happy with that, yeah, that's fine with me. Number 10 is a very minor change, again, just to make a sentence make more sense. So it says, the afterlife. A Muslim is good because it affects their place in the afterlife. I just think to say a Muslim is good because this affects their place in the afterlife makes more sense. Number 11 is a change that was suggested by Shira, who, on behalf of the Judaism members of various Sacres, felt that a better way to word this sentence would make it more specific, rather than saying there is regular reading of the Torah as it reminds Jews of their identity. It would be better to say it reminds Jews of their founding story and values. Again, number 12 is just to make the sentence clearer. So it says, defining that a person who believes in a higher power and that someone that they love, it goes on to say, has gone somewhere when they die. So I'm proposing that we add in the word believes, defining that a person who believes in a higher power and believes that someone that they love has gone somewhere when they die. Just makes that sentence clearer. Number 13, which is one of the year 7 lessons. So it has a sentence that says, in this lesson, teachers should explore how religions and religious worldviews differ from non-religious worldviews. And this isn't an essential change, but I was just remembering that our ASC previously has voted to change every time the syllabus referred to religions, religious and non-religious worldviews. We voted to change it to religions and worldviews. So I was just wondering if we wanted to change that sentence to match that. So just change that sentence to say, in this lesson, teachers should explore how religions differ from non-religious worldviews.
Shira.
I think I remember looking at this and making a judgment that in this particular case that this was the best wording. I can't remember the exact context, but I think it was actually a discussion about beliefs in particular. And so we're talking about religions, we're talking about beliefs. And as long the problem that they had previously was that there was an incoherence to the syllabus, and I don't actually think this. I made a judgment before that. I thought this was fine, like this.
Okay, so if everyone else is happy to leave that as it is, we could take number 13 out of the voting in that case.
Can I suggest when the groups get together that they discuss whether we're leaving that in or out?
Yeah. I need to remember what the context was.
So number 14 is in the assessment section, and this is just a sentence that when I read it, it didn't quite make sense to me. So it says, in RE, by the end of each key stage, the expectation is that pupils' achievements will be weighed up by teachers using criteria arising from the syllabus, but also to align the policies and procedures of the school. So I'm just proposing that that last bit of the sentence, after the word but, we change it to, but that assessment will also be aligned with the policies and procedures of the school. Just makes more sense, I think. And page 15 is a very minor thing, is right at the end where it's talking about resources. There's a suggestion that primary colleagues could get old textbooks from secondary schools. And I'm just proposing that where it says, if primary school colleagues contact a local secondary school, they might have old unused copies available. And I'm just suggesting we change copies to textbooks to make it clearer. So that's...
Can I request that you, Emily, email me to let me know which of these is new compared to the conversations, the emails that we had back and forth, so that I can feed that back to Bracknell. The other question I have is to do with this syllabus. Firstly, I noticed it was truncated, the resources have been truncated, which I presume was just a printing error. But also the table of contents is gone, and I want to say how important I think it is that the table of contents is there and that it is online and that the hyperlinks are working so that people can navigate back and forth to find things easily, because I can't see a table of contents at all in what's been printed here.
So this is just pages from the syllabus that where the changes occur. This is not the whole document. Yeah, so this is just an extract. You may, but you've prompted me to say something useful, I think, Shira. You may notice, if you read this carefully, you may spot some other errors, which hopefully are just typos or punctuation errors, because I have spotted some other errors, but they're things I'm not bringing to Sacre because I'm assuming you do not want to have to go through every typo and punctuation error. One thing I have asked our design team to correct is you see the header on the top of each page. It says locally agreed syllabus for religious education 2026 to 2031. I've asked them to add in the word Wokingham and also to take out to 2031, because something we discussed and voted on was that our syllabus would not have an end date. It would just be the syllabus from 2026. So yeah, just to say, if you spot other minor errors, hopefully I have picked those up.
Okay, thank you, Emily. So what we need to do now is to get into our various groups and discuss and agree within those groups our position on the various changes. As I say, there will be one vote on this. So the idea is we accept or reject them as a whole. Now, the only difference there, I think, is just change 13. We just need to make sure that we're all aligned with change 13. So might take that separately. But if we could do that, There is a breakout group that Ian has organised for Committee C. Committee B has a little bit of a problem because we've got someone online as well as Linda in the room.
Can you call on the phone?
So hopefully you can call on a phone or WhatsApp and get together on that if we need to.
Just to say, Nigel, if I don't know if Katie wanted me to email me her phone number, I could pass that on to Linda. Perhaps that might be a way to do it.
Okay. Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. You draw our attention to point 13, which we need to discuss. But may I just remind people that we also had a proposal about number 9 as well, which was that we might want to check with the particular group what that wording should be. I don't think that's contentious, but I just want to draw your attention to that we agree that's the way forward on it.
Right.
Number 9, wasn't
it?
Number 9, yes.
Yeah. No, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so shall we just break out into groups?
Who else is in group B?
How are you two guys? Nick and Sarah are supposed to join your groups. They've not said anything about you, have they?
I think we had a different. I had a different Zoom link sent to me, so maybe I need to log out of this group and log into the other group rather than go into a breakout room. I don't know.
Well, good luck with that one, guys.
I might try that. I may see you later. Sarah, are you going to do the same thing? Are you going to log out and log back in again? I think you're muted.
I'm trying at the moment now. It keeps coming up that it says downloading app. So do we maybe need to get out, like you said,
I think
out?
we may need to leave and join. I'm going to try that and then I'll come back here if that's not the case.
Okay, you try and let me know.
Yeah, we'll do.
Hello. Yeah, I can.
Brilliant. We're all together.
Right, the problem is I can't hear anything. This room's too noisy.
Oh, great. Have you got headphones or something you can pop in? Okay.
So we have, I think, three votes to put through. What we're doing with point 9, what we're doing with point 13, and then having decided those, how we're moving forward with everything. Okay? So I want feedback from each group. Okay, so point 9, are we agreed that we're going to go back to a Hinduism rep and confirm what the precise wording should be of that one?
The Hinduism rep, not necessarily of Wokingham, because Wokingham doesn't have an active Hindu rep at the moment.
Yeah. Sorry, Alison. We're going to go and talk to a Hindu rep from one of the other Sacres, because we don't have one ourselves at the moment.
But I have contact with 2 Hindu reps in Berkshire.
Oh, that's fine. You just said we'll go back to the Hindu rep, and that's what puzzled me.
Yeah,
But you meant of
sorry,
another Sacre.
Hindu
Yeah.
rep from another Sacre. Okay, so Group A, Shearer, are we happy with that?
Yeah.
Group B? Group C?
Yeah.
Group D?
Yes.
Right. So point 13, which is about changing from religions and religious worldviews, we just check the context of those. So we go to each group. Shearer, what was your view on that?
We didn't care one way or the other because that's what's contained within activities which are already framing religions as worldviews. The whole thing's a mess. They need to be completely rewritten, and changing one word here or there is not going to fix it. So it doesn't really matter.
Right. Group B?
Yeah, we're happy to leave it as is.
Yeah. Group C?
Yeah, we don't have any strong feelings on either, so yeah, I'm happy to leave it as it was.
Group D?
Yeah, we're happy to retain.
Okay. So then finally, given those 2 changes, are we happy to approve everything going forward? So Group A?
Yeah. There's a typo, of course. Get rid of the extra word is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Group B?
Yeah.
Yeah. Group C?
Yeah.
And Group D?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So we now have our way forward. Thank you very much. And that ends the ASC part of this meeting, and we will start again being a Sacre. Okay, so returning to point 3 of the agenda, the old point 3, minutes of the previous meeting. So does anyone have any comments on the minutes of the previous meeting? No? Okay, so are we all accepting those? Yeah. All right, that's great. Matters arising. The Sacre Constitution. Emily.
Yeah, so this is a very quick and easy one, just simply to say that as well as our syllabus having been adopted by the Borough Council, our constitution was also at the same council meeting in July, adopted by the council. And so in the agenda pack, I've just included the final version of our constitution for your information. But that has been formally adopted, and it says in our constitution that we'll review it every 4 years. So of course we can review sooner if anyone wants to raise any change they'd like to suggest, but otherwise the normal default is that we would revisit it in 4 years' time.
Okay, thank you. A-level entry data.
Thanks, Nigel. Yeah, so this was just responding to an action from the minutes that at the last meeting, I was sharing our A-level results for Wokingham for 2024. And I believe it was Alison that raised a query about what percentage of Wokingham students were entered for the A-level as compared to nationally. So it's actually quite tricky, I found, finding that information, because different sources have slightly different figures and then the data gets updated. But I have put together I've got a document that has the data in it, which I will try and share on my screen now. So that should be coming up. Yeah, I'll try and make it a little bit bigger if I can. Not sure if I can, I'll zoom, here we go, yeah. Okay, so you can see that 5% of students were entered for the A-level exam nationally, and it was 4% in Wokingham. So not that much difference percentage-wise between Wokingham and national. In terms of the A-level data for 2025, there has been a delay with that, and that's not going to be available till December. So we can share with you that at our next Sacre meeting. But that's what it looked like for Wokingham. So there were 5 Wokingham schools, entered 37 students in Wokingham. So we have seen a decline in numbers entered in Wokingham, but it isn't that different to national.
Shira.
Is that what would normally be called a philosophy A-level, or
No, it's A-level religious studies, I think it's called. Yeah.
Oh, right.
A-level philosophy is
separate?
Okay, and then a discussion of the future of the Berkshire Sacre Hub. I can't remember who's leading that.
Ian, do you want to
carry on with our conversation.
So people might remember that at our last meeting, we started having a discussion about the future of the Berkshire Sacre Hub. And we came to a conclusion that we thought a hub was a good thing. And we got into talking about how the representation on the hub might work. And I think we concluded that we felt that every group, all the 4 groups on the Sacre should have representation on the hub. But that's kind of where we got to with our discussion. And we decided that the next step was that Ian would meet with the advisors to the other Sacres to talk about which one of them, if any, might be willing to take on leadership of the hub, because obviously Anne Andrews was doing that in the diocese, and Anne Andrews is retired now. So we need someone new to coordinate the hub. That meeting between the advisors hasn't happened yet, but Ian is very happy to organise a meeting after our meeting today. And actually Ian was saying to me that it's quite helpful timing-wise that they haven't met already, because just recently the government's review of the curriculum was published. So we now know more about what the government's thinking in terms of the future for Sacres and the future for RE. And now we can move forward with talking about the hub with that knowledge of, more knowledge of the future of RE and Sacres.
Shira.
I think what we agreed last time was that there would be some sort of subcommittee formed of the Sacre in order to discuss the future of the hub, involving a representative from each of the 4 groups. Not how we would be represented on the hub, because in terms of representing on the hub, there's all sorts of possibilities of how, you might say, we're going to have to make sure we've got one of you from each Sacre and one from each religious group. And, I don't think we decided anything quite as specific as that the new hub would have one member from each group from each Sacre, which could end up being, possibly too many of one group of people, not enough of another group of people. That's not.
Yeah, you may well be right, Shira, that it might be a group with representation from each group to talk about
what to do about the hub.
Yeah.
Okay. Beth?
Can I just throw into this mix now that the authorities locally are talking about a mayoral election to form a mayoral region, and it's likely that unitaries will change in that discussion, which is such a shame really, because they just knocked down Shire Hall.
Okay. But
You have to take things one day at a time.
I think that's something in the future, isn't it? That's, I think we have to plan on the basis of what we have at the moment, and anything else is just speculative, and we will deal with that at the time. Okay, so Ian, could you just fill us in a little bit more on what's happening on the hub?
Okay. As Emily said, when Emily and I met, and I'll go through the curriculum assessment update because that will frame, I think, the Pan Berkshire Hub. We do know that the DFE has now accepted recommendations from the curriculum assessment review, and that's been out, and I'm having meetings daily about it, so I can update you even more than when the curriculum assessment review came out. The curriculum assessment review has recommended, and the DFE have accepted, that RE becomes a national curriculum subject. Therefore, it would be, Vanessa Ogden, who is the RE member, or one of two RE members of the curriculum assessment review, is leading a stage 1 committee that will report by the 31st of March next year on whether there is a consensus for a national curriculum. So she's bringing together relevant parties to discuss whether there is agreement there should be a national curriculum for RE. That starts this week, as far as I'm aware. It does start this week, I'm aware of that. And she has said that she has to have that report out by March because she has a new job starting on the 1st of April as the new RISE director for the DFE. So Vanessa will report on that one. After that, should there be a consensus, then a new national curriculum working group will be set up for a national curriculum to come in September 2028 for RE. That will therefore replace all locally agreed syllabuses. One thing that has come from the Catholic Education Service is that they do not want a dilution of Catholic RE, to which point the DFE have said, and I'm going to quote this directly, they will not disrupt church schools. So there is they will not disrupt church schools' recommendations in national curriculum. Therefore, from September 2028 will be the first of a brand new national curriculum for RE, making it a core subject, because it will also be required to be taught post-14 in the same way science, maths and English are. It has therefore also been moved to a new block within Progress 8 and Attainment 8 scores, which are how schools are measured secondary, to be one of the humanities subjects. So in the past it was simply history and geography, it's now history, geography and RE is now included as academic breadth. So it will count towards a pupil's Attainment 8 score if it's one of their best 8 GCSEs. The recommendation has also been to remove statutory post-16 RE. However, the Church of England and the Catholic schools are not happy about that because of their trust deed foundations. So it looks like it will be an optional for church schools. The aim is that, having spoken with members last Tuesday, that the current education bill is on pause for the changes in law to bring this into effect, because it will require a change to the 1988 Education Act. What's also been said is that Vanessa Ogden has said, working with the Department for Local Government, Housing and Communities, that they like Sacres. So the aim is that Sacres will in some form continue. And what the phraseology was is that Vanessa said RE is an absolute critical subject to the modern curriculum, and as she was ahead of RE, so I thought that was really interesting, she benefited enormously from the support of her Sacre. So she has argued about retaining Sacres going forward, and the idea is that the government say they see value in good working Sacres, and they are looking at ways in which to continue that, following on from the changes to the subject. The advice they've given, if any local authority is going through a review and agreed syllabus now, so we've done ours in Wokingham, do it as a light touch, because it will not be around for much longer should all this come to fruition, but they still need to update it. Therefore, the discussion from the Curriculum Assessment Review is an agreed syllabus conferences will not happen anymore, that actually it will be a national curriculum subject. That will also involve changing GCSE and A-level RE. So the religious studies syllabuses now will also change. So it's going to be a wholesale change for RE. If in the interim period, local government reorganisation goes ahead, which actually for a lot of local authorities is happening, then schools will be given 18 months to continue teaching their current degree syllabus up to the national curriculum coming in 2028. The aim is therefore that 2028 is the date that's been said. I've heard that now from DFE, from Vanessa, from the RE Council, from Sacre, I think from you name it, I've heard it from them, I've met with them about this one. So the aim is then that the subject in 3 years' time will be different from it being locally determined as we are now. So one of the things when Emily and I met talking about the hub is that we were thinking that actually if we wait until we know the outcome of stage 1, which at the latest will be the end of March, that'll be a good opportunity for the hub to reconvene to discuss what its role will be going forward, in how we can support and how the local authorities can support the schools in these changes that will be coming forward. The DFE have accepted all of Vanessa Ogden's recommendations in respect of RE. So they're just waiting to see if the consensus is there for a national curriculum. And that, as I say, that work is going on now. I do know that prior to the curriculum assessment review going out, a call for writers for a new curriculum has been put out already. But that was called as a non-statutory framework. Whether that changes now, we don't know. But we will know that by the 1st of December. So by that point, we will know. But the changes are, it will be a centrally determined curriculum, as all of the subjects are. Ruth Flanagan, who is the is at Exeter University RE lead, has put forward the idea that has mentioned that actually this reflects what's happened to all the other subjects, and that actually the content then will be put together by a working group at the DFE. How the DFE will put that together, I do not know. I do know for every subject other than RE, by the 1st of December, the people who are writing the new national curriculum will have been notified that they are writing the new national curriculum. So I do, and that came out this morning. I got that email at 9 o'clock this morning. That was an interesting experience. So the idea is that Sacres, they want to continue in some form. DFE have accepted the recommendation of a national curriculum for RE, which will place it on a par with all science, maths and English, because they have to be taught up to the age of 16. But then the idea is, when we met, because all this is up around what's going to happen at the moment, we felt that if the hub were to reconvene after these recommendations have gone through, then that will give us more guidance on what the Sacre will be doing going forward.
So we'll know definitely in March.
31st of March is the deadline for.
RE will be in the national
that will be the definite yes or no.
Shahid. Okay.
How does one put one's name forward to get involved with this? I mean, my husband and I basically, we run one of the main providers of Jewish education support for schools. How do we get our feet in the door of these meetings?
At the moment, I'm not sure how that would happen. I think Anna Silver at the Board of Deputies may have more information on that one than I do myself as an RE advisor. So maybe speaking to Anna. What they've said is that the stage 1 will be interested parties. So how that's going to happen, I don't know. Vanessa will be organising that one.
And that will start when?
That's to start as soon as that will need to report by the end of March. And then after that one will be the writing of the curriculum. So should stage 1 say, yes, there's going to be a national curriculum, after that's gone, stage 2 will be the writing of the curriculum. And that will then be put out to tender documents for people to say they would like to write it, which is how the other subjects, excluding RE, have gone out in the past few weeks for people to look at those. But stage 1, Vanessa will be calling, all they say is interested parties together to discuss whether there should be a national curriculum for RE.
Right. So I've got a couple of people online who want to make a contribution. So Katie. Sorry, Shane.
Hello, thank you very much, Ian, for that really helpful update. Just with my CFE hat on, just to let you know that I was in a meeting with the National Society last week, and they are going to produce a new statement of entitlement for the church schools. And that's coming out in January. I don't think it's going to be massively different to what is there currently, so it shouldn't impact too much. But the diocese will obviously support schools, church schools in the Wokingham area with any changes that need to be made with that. I also made the point on the back of my experience, obviously, of working alongside Wokingham Sacre and as advisor for Reading, Bracknell and RBWM, that there needed to be some support for teachers around psychological safety for both them and the children in the classroom. My understanding is that the National Society are looking to bring out some sort of basic racial justice training that church schools can access. But my view would be that, you know, if there's any way that we can get community schools involved in that process as well, that's something that I will be pushing the National Society to be offering potentially going forward. So I hope that's helpful to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Sarah?
I just wanted to bring up the issue about academies. You didn't mention them, Ian. Were they quite specific about the academies will no longer be able to opt out because it will be a core national curriculum subject? Did they make that explicitly so?
Yeah, the bill they've paused at the moment, Sarah, requires academies to follow the national curriculum. Therefore, should RE be part of the national curriculum, it will still remain within that bill that's been paused, that all academies will have to teach the national curriculum, and that will include RE. And it's also very interesting, Sarah, that on page 19 of the Ofsted toolkit, it says that all schools must have a statutory curriculum, which includes the national curriculum and RE. So that's now written large on page 19 of the Ofsted toolkit.
I just thought it was, you know, important to clarify that for everybody, because obviously, you know, that is one thing that academies have quite often done, that they can write their own syllabus, etc.
Okay. Shahid?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's quite very positive news, I take it. I just hope that when they come up with the syllabus, they don't dilute you know, the contents which are being agreed with a lot of the sacries locally, and they come up with something new which is probably more against what we are looking for. And that is my worry, to be honest. But as a subject becoming a core subject, I think that's really welcome. Actually, this is nothing new. Actually, I remember when I was at school, which was a long time ago, which was actually part of the similar to what was being suggested now. So when you're choosing geography and history, other subjects, one of the choices you had was actually RE. So it just seems that we've just gone full circle. Before then we had it, we took it out, and we're putting it back again. Maybe 30, 40 years.
Can I just say, in education, there's always a statement, what goes around comes around. You never throw anything out, because you never know when you're going to revisit it again.
Absolutely.
Just also, sorry, I assume that the private schools will probably follow the same thing as well, because this is a core subject. So everyone, whether doesn't matter academies or state schools or private schools, they all have to follow the same pattern, I suppose, because it's a core subject now.
An independent school wouldn't have to follow it because they have their own. The RE network looks after the independent schools, so they may choose to follow the national curriculum. Some do, some may not. It's entirely up to them what they wish to do. But I think the move forward, and I think they are seen as an interested party to have that discussion as well. So that they will be. But the aim is then that RE is put on a national footing, because one of the issues around it that was taken to Vanessa and to the curriculum assessment review is there's been no standard for RE. And for example, some SACREs have produced, some Agree Syllabus Conferences have produced very detailed, in-depth Agree syllabuses, some have not. So I know some agreed syllabuses with about 14 sides long, and they'll tell you what to teach. You just decide what you want to teach yourself. And I think the idea is that there's not that consistency. And it's very interesting that the former HMI lead for RE, Richard Quay, is now no longer talking to anybody. And I know Richard really well, and he won't take my phone calls. So I think that there's been a lot of, he's been told not to speak to anybody because his basis for RE, the research review, which is in the disciplinary knowledge and the substantive knowledge we have in the working syllabus, is going to be the way forward for RE. And that's a key thing moving forward. So actually the pedagogy is around there. It's now looking at the content and what is the content going to be for the religions. And I think that's where, when we get to the writing the curriculum, the tender will go out for a new national curriculum, say what's going to be included within it. And as I say, that's as with all government tenders, that will be an open process. But will be for the same GCSE and for the A level as well.
Just coming back on that, I'm just thinking when they're writing the contents, it will be done at the central level, but do any of the local Sacres have input to it, or no, totally it'll be done independence of the local?
It's very interesting. In every meeting I've been in, Paul Smalley, who is the chief officer now for Sacre, has been involved in every single meeting. So the Sacres are being represented at the highest level within, and they were also one of the bodies alongside the RE Council for England and Wales that actually spoke directly to the Curriculum Assessment Review about moving forward. So Sacre, as representing the Sacres across the country, have been involved in every conversation. And the meeting that I went to on the 5th of November, Paul Smalley was one of the keynote speakers alongside Vanessa. So,
Okay, Philip.
Just our context. So we're representing obviously the heads across Wokingham, but in terms of my context of my academy that I'm part of, so we are 13 schools across Wokingham and Bracknell. And so apart from the two Bracknell schools, the rest of us are undergoing a huge piece of work at the moment to re-look at our RE curriculum based on the new what we've come up with from a Wokingham perspective. So, Ian, do you know, basically, and our action plans are finishing January 2027, and we've got this period now to do all this. Are we looking at doing that and then potentially a substantial change again within that kind of next 2 terms?
I'm not sure. I think it will probably reflect the national curriculum for all the other subjects. So it'll be broad headlines, and then within that, schools will be free to tailor their own curriculum. So it may be that what you're doing now will feed into that one.
Yeah.
I say it is interesting. This is my notes. It was interesting where it was said, this I thought was, Emily will love this. They were told not to spend the average £42,000 on writing a new agreed syllabus. But
right.
Who spends 42,000? That said was the average to write an agreed syllabus. But they just said make it light touch now. So the idea is, yes, putting this in place, and then it would be then maybe tweaking in light of a new national curriculum.
But I guess, Ian, that our locally agreed syllabus was based on things like ways of knowing, religion and worldviews, which are kind of established good practice now, aren't they? So it's, if you're doing any general work around that in your trust, I would imagine that will still be useful work.
Yeah.
I
imagine it will sit under the, if you look at the national curriculum, DT is what, 2-3 pages long, and so but I imagine if it's going to be core, then potentially it's going to be looking slightly broader, like the science section or the English or the maths section, rather than just a couple of A4 pages for a whole primary school national curriculum.
Yeah, I think that will be the case. And I think the idea is as well that it's around the pedagogy, so it's whether it's going to be the content and or the pedagogy, which we don't know at the moment. One thing that is being talked about is the national content standard a lot, that's been out there from the REC for a while, which actually is reflective of the syllabus, and the ways of knowing have been spoken about as well, and substantive knowledge. And if you're reading alongside the new Ofsted toolkit, this shows you how sad I am. Page 21 of the Ofsted toolkit does say disciplinary knowledge is still there. And page 47 does reference RE. So 19 and 47 reference RE, but page 21 still talks about substantive knowledge and disciplinary knowledge. So I think that will be the drive. So
this journey is still an important one to take, and we're not looking at substantial, potentially not huge changes then. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that that update. Sorry, Clara.
Hi, sorry, it was a question about the hub and the hub not meeting until the end of March. I get a bit confused about how often they do normally meet and kind of, I guess, what the content of those meetings are. But I was wondering if they're missing out on opportunities to think about how we're rolling out the syllabus and supporting schools. Is that something that isn't part
So
of that?
currently there is no hub.
Okay.
Claire, because Anna's resigned, there's no one coordinating it. There's not meetings happening currently. So we've got a completely blank slate to start again with, and several Sacres in Berkshire went through a bit of a poor period where they didn't have an RE advisor. I think probably they've all got an advisor in place now, but it's been a real period of change where we haven't had a hub at all. So for now, there is no hub in existence.
Okay, thank you. Emily, can you just give us the verbal report on how things are in Wokingham schools?
Yes, so obviously we've just been hearing about a very big change that schools know is coming in terms of the review of the curriculum, which for both primary and secondary schools, we know there's going to be quite a lot of change for schools to adapt to. As well as that, starting from this month, there is a new Ofsted framework, which Ian was just mentioning, which schools are getting their heads around. So there's a lot of new things for schools, and we know that in the spring term, there's going to be a schools white paper with lots of changes to legislation. I think a lot of it will be around special educational needs, but it will be more broad than that as well. So it's a year of a lot of changes for schools to take on board. In addition to that, some of the challenges that I've mentioned previously are still ongoing. So schools are generally under quite a lot of financial pressure at the moment. A lot of schools are very worried about their budgets. And not helping with that is the fact that we had, as is the case nationally, I think, there's some years with a lower birth rate. So schools have a falling roll. At the moment, I think the year groups most affected in Wokingham are early years and Key Stage 1. But obviously fewer pupils means less money. So that's not a helpful situation for schools. What else? Attendance since the pandemic has been a concern, and that still continues to be the case. So quite a lot of children off school, persistently absent, often with mental health needs, anxiety, etc. And families still experiencing challenges with the cost of living and those stresses that are in families being seen in impacting on children in school. So yeah, I was in a meeting with head teachers a couple of weeks ago, and there's one head teacher there who's been a head for 21 years, and she said now is the time she's found it most challenging in her career to be a head teacher. So yeah. So yeah, I don't know if Philip or Sarah, anyone who's in school, wants to add anything to that.
No, I agree with everything you said.
On the positive side, Wokingham is obviously trying to do everything we can to support schools. So there's lots of work going on around. So there's a lot of work going on around special educational needs, with more specialist provision being developed, for one thing. There's a project that started in Wokingham recently called Partnership and Inclusion Service, which 30 of our primary schools have signed up to, and that is a project looking to develop support for neurodiverse children. There's 2 family hubs that are going to be opened in the borough, one in Wokingham Town and one in Woodley, that are going to offer parenting support for the parents of young children, and that's going to be a collaboration between schools and the local voluntary and community sector organisations. So yeah, there's a lot of new and exciting things happening in the borough to try and support schools and families.
Yeah, sure.
Emily, you know, the last thing you mentioned, supporting young parents, schools and local charities, is actually the council is also part of the mix as well, providing the support, and it is, what type of support will they provide?
Yeah, I don't know the details of it, but the projects, the family hub projects are being sort of coordinated by the local authority, but working with colleagues in schools and with charities and voluntary sector. And they'll offer, I think the idea is that there's a wide range of support available for parents. So part of that could be parenting support, but it could also be adult learning courses potentially, how to help your child at school, those kinds of things, how to make sure your child is ready to start school. I imagine it will be a range of things.
I'd just add as well that the local authority and the Wokingham SEND team have produced an excellent document called the Ordinary Available Provision document. So this is basically it's been very well received and a very well written document that is around basically the guidance of what is expected at all mainstream primary schools. And early year settings, a very comprehensive document. And so again, it's worth just kind of recognising kind of that piece of work, big piece of work, and big collaborative piece of work that's gone across schools, and then now starting the early years version of it as well, which is great. So yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Let's move on to development plan and budget again, Emily.
Thanks, Nigel. So, yeah, in the agenda pack, you have copies of our development plan and our budget. So the development plan is on page 57 of the agenda pack. So there's a couple of things to update you on in relation to the development plan. So section B of the development plan is about the support that we offer to teachers. And as we mentioned at our last Sacre meeting, Ian and I were proposing that in terms of training for secondary school teachers, we have, rather than network meetings, which we tend to get very low attendance at, we put on a whole day of training for them. And that was going to be in the summer term, but Sarah pointed out at our last meeting that that would mean they have to wait quite a long time before they get support with the new syllabus. So in discussion with Ian, we've moved that forward to February. And so I have advertised that to secondary school teachers, and we've got some schools already starting to book for that. And I've also been in touch with Reading and Bracknell local authorities to say that if they would like to, they can advertise the day to their teachers as well, which they've both said they will. And what we'll do is offer it free of charge to Wokingham teachers, because we're the Wokingham Sacre that's organising it, so we can fund the Wokingham places, but we will charge teachers from Reading and Bracknell so that we cover our costs, because obviously we have to hire a venue and refreshments for the day. So hopefully it will be sort of cost neutral for our Sacre, because the costs will be offset by teachers from other local authorities, who they'll be it's not expensive for them, but literally just to cover our costs. And that's going to happen at Dinton Activity Centre, which I've not used for teacher training before, but they're trying to promote themselves as a training venue. And the date of that, in case any Sacre members want to come along, and you're most welcome to join, is the 27th of February. And that day will look at supporting schools with the syllabus, implementing that, thinking about RE in relation to the curriculum and assessment review, which we'll know a little bit more about by then, thinking about the new Ofsted inspection framework in relation to RE, and just giving colleagues an opportunity to talk together and share practice, because I think RE teachers can sometimes feel quite isolated, because sometimes you're an RE department of one person in a secondary school, and maybe just the only RE expert in a primary school as well. So yeah, it is for secondary schools, specifically on the 27th of February. Something else we've added into the programme of support for teachers is at the last primary network meeting, where there were about 12 primary teachers, there was a discussion about where people have got to with the new syllabus. And there was quite a lot of anxiety being expressed by the teachers that it felt to them like quite a big job to implement the new syllabus, even though they had plenty of time to do it. It still was sort of weighing heavily on them. They felt quite isolated. They felt they had not much time to do quite a lot of work. So in discussion with Ian, we've decided to put in a half day of support for primary teachers, which is going to be in January, on the 14th of January in the afternoon from 1 till 4. And again, Sacre members are welcome to come to that. I haven't yet booked a venue for it because we only decided the other day, didn't we? And so I can let you know where the venue will be. But what we're thinking that will consist of is there'll be a bit of input for the teachers about this is how you go about taking a syllabus and using it to plan your school's curriculum. And we can maybe ask some more experienced RE leaders in some Wokingham schools to share how they're going about the work. And then we'll just give teachers time to either work on their own or in pairs or groups to do some work on their syllabus with Ian there to support them if they've got questions. And then, I don't know, maybe at the end they can share what they've been working on during the afternoon. So it'll just be some support for them.
What day did you say?
It's the 14th of January.
And what time?
1 till 4.
I'm happy to host at my school if you want.
Oh, that's a really good offer.
We've got big halls, so you've been
I've been to your school, yeah.
Upstairs, didn't you? So
yeah,
the hall, if you want to use the hall, and yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to host it. So
brilliant. Thank you, Philip. That's the venue then. Aldergrove Primary School. And you've got quite a big car park as well, haven't you? Always important. Yeah. So that's a couple of updates on the development plan. The other thing I wanted to update you on in relation to the development plan was the first thing on our plan is about filling membership vacancies. And we do actually have quite a few vacancies at the moment. And hopefully I can just share with you a document that is our latest position in terms of membership. So yeah, that is on the screen now. I'll just make that a little bit bigger.
Could you send that round to me suddenly?
I will, yes. So in terms of Group A, we're supposed to have 4 members who are from Christian denominations other than C of E. And you will remember that Catherine Jinkerson left us quite a few months ago, and we already had 1 vacancy in that group. So we've now got 2 out of those 4 vacant. Then we have some other vacancies for other religions in Group A. So obviously you will have heard the very sad news about Anju, who was our Hinduism member. So we have a vacancy there. Kieran Hunjan, who was our Sikhism representative, contacted me to resign in July. And you'll know that we've for a long time not had a Buddhism member. So Group B is fully represented. Group C, our teachers group, obviously Stephen has left us and Julie Easton also left in the summer. So we have 2 teacher vacancies and then we have our 2 counsellors making up Group D. So I will work with Luciani. We've got various organisations we know of that we can contact, for example, in relation to Hinduism and Sikhism and Buddhism. I know, Shira, you recommended a Hindu organisation, a national organisation I could contact. So we will do that. In terms of teachers, I have been mentioning it at network meetings, and I have a couple of teachers in mind who I will make direct contact with. But Philip, I was wondering, I don't know if you could ask maybe at primary heads, not necessarily for another head teacher, although if anyone's interested, that would be great, but maybe head teachers could ask their RE leads if any of them would like to join the Sacre. That would be... Oh, fantastic. There, that would be brilliant. And so if anyone has any thoughts, obviously everyone has to have a nominating body. But if you know of any individual people who you think would be good Sacre members and who might be interested, then do let us know and we can make contact with their relevant nominating body.
Yeah. Looking at that list there and in the Group A membership, it seems to me that not having a Roman Catholic here is quite a big omission. Do we have any contacts within the Roman Catholic Church that we can get?
So there's a Catholic diocese, isn't there, who presumably I could make contact with. Yeah.
I can talk to Nikki Peters, the head of St. Teresa's as well. So I've known her for many years, so I can reach out to her and see whether she has or knows of anyone as well.
Yeah. Sarah.
I was just bringing up the issue. You mentioned earlier, Emily, about the training days. In light of what Ian's just said, I just wondered whether or not people will be rather anxious, whether or not they should start planning if, in retrospect, they're going to get this report in March, whether or not they want to do a lot of planning if the national curriculum stuff is going to come along and supersede anything that they come up with or ideas that they come up with. And I wondered whether or not we should think about the dates, because February is very close to March, whether or not it would be an idea for considering altering the dates there. It was just a thought, being a person, you know, on the front line, so to speak, where people are thinking about, you know, the Wokingham syllabus and then thinking, well, hold on, this is going to be a year later. Do I want to do all this work, especially at primary school, to then have it all superseded by other stuff?
Yeah, that's a good point, Sarah. I mean, I guess putting the other point of view, it would be a chance for schools to come together and hear the latest update on the situation from Ian. And I think a lot of the things we might cover that day would be quite broad and generic and will still be useful whatever happens with the national curriculum. I don't know what you feel, Ian.
Yeah, I think, Sarah, one of the things as well is that until the national curriculum comes in, schools will still be required by law to teach the agreed syllabus. So I think it's in the comment that came up from Philip there as well, is that's going to be at least 2.5 years. So I think it's getting people to grips with it. And I think looking at elements around what's in the syllabus, around the ways of knowing, and it's really interesting that when I have done training on the ways of knowing, people look at me like I'm some alien from a different planet because they've never heard of it. And it could be something then that we are preparing people for by getting everybody together. And as I say, by that point, we may have further direction. But we could also, as Emily said, we've got the new Ofsted framework. The first schools have just been inspected using the new framework. So it would be time to reflect on the three pages where RE's meant. Yeah.
I'm just thinking then it might well, being somebody on the shop floor, it might be an idea if we have, okay, this is what you've got to think of short term, as in Wokingham syllabus, and then this is what we know is going to be the national picture, and let people know both things so that they've got a clear understanding of, you know, what they've got to do, when they've got to do it, and what's coming around the corner, as much as we know then.
Yeah, because I think when you read the curriculum and assessment review and you read the DFE's response to the curriculum assessment review, that's really interesting in terms of the phrase they're using is the RE consensus, and there's some indications in both of those documents that we could relate to teachers in February, so they're aware of what is coming over the horizon. And the same way
that's why I raised it, you know, because I think that's quite important. You know, I'm hearing this now and I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? What can I make do with? What do I have to change or whatever? And then long term, I'll retire by then.
Thanks, Sarah. That's really good, really helpful, I think. Yeah, so just to move on to talk about the budget update, there's not really much to say about that. So you can see the latest position there in terms of how much we'd spent as of the end of October. Obviously, sorry.
Sorry, just to comment. I thought there'd be a figure of 42,000 here somewhere. I can't find it.
Thank goodness no, Shahid. Just something to say in terms of an action from the last meeting. Stephen raised a concern at the last meeting about the budget, in that I was explaining that every year we get allocated the same amount of funding from Wokingham Borough Council because they get a grant from national government that stays the same every year. So we get allocated £6,800, but obviously every year our planned spending is higher because the cost of living increases, the cost of consultancy increases, so we have to pay more for our RE advisor. And Stephen was saying that he doesn't feel very comfortable with the fact that we plan to spend more than our budget is, and that's only going to get more the case as the years go on. So I raised that with colleagues in finance, and the colleague I was speaking to said she would take that to her senior colleague, but she was of the view that our overspend is not significant enough to be of concern to senior colleagues in finance, but she would discuss it with them. So I'll let you know if there's any update on that.
Beth.
Could I just add a bit on to that? As my colleagues who are councillors know, the council is hard up for money, and taking the hits if we have spend what we haven't got is adult social care and SEND. And those are the things that we can't afford not to do. Adult social care is just about our biggest budget for things that we do directly to people.
Okay. Feedback from teacher networks and training opportunities. So Emily again.
Sorry, I think that might be me again,
Yeah.
because the reason it's not Ian is because it was actually the two teacher meetings that we've had were both with primary school teachers, and because Ian is a secondary specialist, he asked two of his colleagues to deliver those primary meetings, and I went to both the meetings. So one was training for RE subject leaders in primary schools. That was on the 17th of September. We only had 3 primary teachers attending, so the attendance wasn't high, but the teachers who were there were completely brand new to RE, and they found it so helpful and valuable. They were really grateful. One thing I was thinking, we did hold that training during the school day this year. It was during an afternoon, whereas in previous years we've done it after school and we've had more teachers attending. So that might be something to think about for the future. There was also a primary network meeting later in September. We had about 12 teachers come to that meeting. And the topic, there was some time talking about the new syllabus, as I mentioned. The rest of the meeting was on the topic of engaging with authentic voices in RE. So it was talking about how can we ensure that children encounter lived experiences of religious people and people that hold non-religious worldviews. And there were lots of ideas suggested for that, including, for example, the Real People, Real Faith materials that the hub developed. So they were both very positively received meetings.
Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up on what you said about the training for the primary school teachers, and listening to what Philip said, I'm just wondering if we could take advantage of you again, if you've got this meeting coming up on Wednesday, to ask the other people involved what would work best for them, and then feed that back into you so that then we're responding to what the schools think is what's going to work best for them, as opposed to us saying, this is when we're going to provide it, and you've got to fit around us. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'm happy if you want. I don't know whether you want to send me like a précis, like bullet points, and then I can then get that, or whether we look at creating maybe Microsoft Forms to send to schools to fill in. I don't know whether that would help.
Yeah, I mean, all our network meetings are after school. So it's only for primary teachers, it's only the subject leader training that this year we've done during the school day, which obviously means we can have a longer meeting and go more in depth and cover more. But the flip side of that is maybe some teachers find it harder to come. So it's really, I guess, only the subject leader training that it would be good to get some feedback on. But I'll send you a quick question in an email, Philip, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and I'll bring that up. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, no more questions on that. The task and finish group to review the process of syllabus development. Yeah, go on.
So this can be quite quick, I think, depending on what Sacre members think. Obviously, we were talking at the last meeting about setting up a task and finish group to look at how was our syllabus developed, what was the process, with a view to learning so that next time we need to create a new syllabus, we've learnt the lessons from last time and we can make it a more smooth and efficient process. But obviously, because of what Ian's just been sharing us about RE looking like it's going to be in the national curriculum and the timeline for that, it's looking as though we may never need to create another new locally agreed syllabus, because by the time we have to review our syllabus, it's looking as though RE will be in the national curriculum. We will know that for sure, I think, by our next Sacre meeting. So what we could do is put this idea on hold for now, come back to it at our next Sacre meeting when we've got more information, and then decide whether we want to have this task and finish group or not.
Can I just interrogate the timing on that? Because I think Ian said 31st of March was when the report on consensus was going to be discussed or approved, but our next Sacre meeting is in February. So it's just a little bit ahead of knowing how this is going to land.
Unless we delay our Sacre meeting.
So yeah, it might mean waiting till our summer meeting.
Alison.
I think also bear in mind, as Beth said, I think most of us don't think Woking and Barrow will still be here in 5 years' time. So we'll be part of a much bigger thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Clara?
Do we need to balance out whether it's worth knowing now and remembering what we need to, even if you, so say, for example, we know in March where if this is and isn't going to happen, if we leave it to summer, are we going to have forgotten some of the key thinking that we need to have remembered from the last process, regardless of whether we're going to go ahead or not? So I think maybe it's too late by summer to do this start and finish group, whatever it's called, the task and finish group. Are you talking about a small working party to do something, or is it worth doing that anyway, regardless of what this March outcome looks like?
So I think there will be a small working party that will be put together, this task and finish group, which would be looking to, take evidence, if you like, the recollections of the various parties who were really involved and deeply involved in what happened on this, and to make recommendations. So yeah, it'd be a small working group that does it. And I do take your point that if we do delay this, there is the danger that we will lose the knowledge. So, there is a tension here. Are we going to spend time doing something which is not useful because we won't ever have to do it again for two reasons? One, that we may not exist, and two, that there may not be a function for it. On the other hand, if we don't start it, we may never be able to start it. Yeah, so there is a tension there. Clara.
So very similar to actually what Philip was saying, that I think there's a risk that we just forget it. I think it would be worthwhile to do something very light touch now, because I think the lessons don't just apply to how we, how we'd write a syllabus, but it was also like the relationship with other groups that kind of represent us. So kind of in the way that the hub potentially represents us, I think it's worth just getting it on paper. We move on, would be my thinking.
As chair and vice chair, Stephen and I both sat on the hub. Mostly me, because Stephen, as a teacher, was working in the day, which is when the hub met. It never ever met in person, and I think it's produced at least 2 syllabi, if not more. 99.9% of the work was done by Anne Andrews, who was the paid education person for the Church of England. The rest was a representative from each of the 6 sacres. And the work was done. We discussed it at short meetings, but Anne produced all of the work. And so looking at what the hub did in the past won't really inspire us as to what we would have to do in the future, because the bulk of the work was done and paid for by the Church of England.
Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. That's confused me because I didn't think we were looking at what the hub did. I thought we were looking at what this group did. But irrespective, my feeling is we're already losing corporate knowledge because we've had key people have already left the group. We've had a few resignations, it seems, over the years as well. I wasn't particularly involved in it, so I can't add any value to what was done in the past. But I think that if people who were involved are minded to give this the time, then I'm encouraged to sort of let them take half a day or a little bit of time to try and do this, because there may well be value in it, because they've already said that they believe the role of a Sacre will continue. So maybe they're thinking there'll be a national curriculum, but then there'll be some decisions made more locally. We don't know. There may be some changes to the timing that comes into this. So it may be worth the people who are interested meeting just to go through that. So we've got that documented, because as has been said, if we leave it, the knowledge and memory will be gone and there'll be no chance of recovering it.
Shira?
I mean, I know that I would very much personally like to discuss how the hub operated in order to work out what frankly went wrong in terms of the fact that it didn't end up having input from so people got sort of frozen out of conversations, possibly not intentionally, in order to learn from that. But so I mean, I really and my memory is still fresh of what I went through dealing with this. It won't be as fresh in 6 months. So, I mean, for us to have some sort of meeting where we sort of discuss what happened and maybe put together a little report of the Berkshire Hub, what went wrong, what we learned, and how one can do things better, without recriminations, just to learn. I think I will be very up for that.
Right.
Can I suggest?
Beth.
Sorry.
Katie, if Katie could can respond.
Thank you. Sorry, just to clarify, that the bulk of the work was not paid for by the Church of England. It was paid for by the Sacres, because Anne was the RE advisor on 3 of the 6 Sacres. So it wasn't paid for by the Church of England. It was paid for in the same way that I'm paid for on Reading, RBWM and Bracknell Forest. It's paid by the Sacres. I think it's a really good idea that there is a bit of a wash up about this, because it has had such a huge impact. And I think it would be very helpful just to have something that says what are the top 5 things that we should do in the future, just so we come out with something, because I think this has had such a widespread implication for the schools, that we can't really, whatever happens with regards to the national curriculum, we can't let something like this happen again. So I think that's a very wise decision, and if I can be of support in any way, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you, Katie. Beth.
I think it might be an idea then to get together with people who attended the hub, and certainly Kira, who should have been involved, because her knowledge is very specialist that we didn't have, and talk about what we did, where it went wrong and how we do it better next time.
Okay. So let's just summarise that. I think there is a widespread feeling from a number of people here that it would be a good idea to do this sooner rather than later, that if we were to delay it, we'd still possibly get to summer and find that there is a need to definitely go through this, and that it would be useful anyway in terms of what we're doing with the hub and the way we might like to organise our contributions to the hub in the future, and it could inform those as well. So I think I'd actually suggest we do go ahead with that and organise some meetings early next year to do that. We're a little bit close to the holiday season coming up at the moment, but maybe we can slot something in, and Beth and I will discuss what we're going to do about this. Is everyone in favour of that, Shira? You're about to say something.
Yeah, because if I can suggest that what we could also do is we could email around chairs of other Sacres. I do know that, I mean, for example, I've had conversations with a member of Bracknell Sacre who had a similar feeling to me. So there could be other individuals whose input could be useful for this, and just put together an informal group to hash this out. It doesn't have to be too over the top formal.
Does this need to be controlled just to the Wokingham group, or is it going to become big if we then start broadening it out to all other Sacres? Is this then going to become a very big thing rather than a reflective process for us as the Wokingham Sacre?
I will put this to the wisdom of the group here, and I certainly agree with that we ought to first place, it ought to be Wokingham that looks at this. We can share what we find with others, and they might find that useful to inform their own thinking on this. But I would start with where we are, if that's okay. Emily.
Yeah, I think what we mentioned at the last meeting was that it would be a Wokingham group, but that group would need to gather information from various people. So it could be, as Beth said, that you might want to talk to Beth, who was part of the hub, but you might also want to talk to other chairs and vice chairs who went to hub meetings, or other faith representatives in other Sacres as part of your information gathering.
But I think our roadmap to that would be to start here in Wokingham, see where we are with our understanding, and seek to get other people feeding back. So we will. I just want to check: is everyone happy that we move forward with this as quickly as possible and start this process with a task and finish group? Okay. All right. So I guess we'll have a discussion, and we'll let people know what the membership of that group will look like, and ask people to get involved as we consider relevant.
Sorry, can I just Ian, a quick clarification question. This links kind of tenuously to what we just said. If in 2029 there's a general election and change of government, is this all this work before that? Is this going to be in law? So new changes to the RE curriculum. If it becomes part of the national curriculum, I presume that's legal. So it won't change again if there's another change in government.
I think personally the date 2028 is very interesting because it's the year before the election.
Exactly,
and the pausing of the schools bill to make any changes is interesting in the fact that everything is on hold now at the DfE until this has been sorted. So I think the idea is that it's getting in place by 2028 for first teaching from 2028, and therefore that would then require any subsequent government of whichever colour, flavour, they would then have to change the law and they would have to go through the process again. So I think the idea is it will set in motion or set in place the place of RE as a national curriculum subject. And I think in that sense it will then be determined by the working party with Vanessa at the moment, and that will then go forward. And then any changes will then have to be made following the same process as they have done now. But I think holding on to and it was in a meeting I had with them last Tuesday when they said we have paused the bill in order that, changes to the law can be incorporated in the light. So we know, and I think that indicates if it's going to be 2028, that's given them 2 years to do it. It is a short time frame in terms of what's going to go in there, alongside changes to public examinations in the subject as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. So we're all agreed that we're going to go ahead with this. That was my understanding. Great. Emily, draft annual report.
Thanks, Nigel. So, yeah, this has been written by Ian with some input from myself. So, yeah, there's not too much to say about it. It is draft at the moment. One thing to say is, as it currently stands, it looks quite dry, and this is always the case because for the version we submit to the DFE and Sacre, we have to follow a set template that they provide for us. But what we always do every year, once we've submitted this, which we have to do by the end of December to the DFE and Sacre, we then produce a more sort of colourful, edited version that we share with schools and governors and other colleagues. It is missing a few bits at the moment where you see the red font. So now that Nigel has been elected as chair, he'll be delighted that he has the pleasure of writing the foreword.
Oh, I thought you said write 4 words. Right.
But just a few things to highlight for you. So the page 4 of the draft report gives an overview of the work of Sacre in the last year. And it says Sacre met on 3 occasions during the year. All the meetings were hybrid, they were all corporate, all the minutes are available. And it also says we convened our agreed syllabus council at our November Sacre meeting and in May and April. And we've achieved 2 significant pieces of work during the year, which was reviewing and updating our constitution and producing a new syllabus. I have spotted an error, in case any of you eagle-eyed people spotted it, that on page 5, where it talks about the locally agreed syllabus, it says schools in the borough and have until January 2026 to implement the syllabus, when it should say 2027, so I will make sure that gets changed. I've added in this summer's GCSE results. As I said, the A-level results aren't available yet, but the GCSE results are. So this is on page 6 of the report. And where you can see the figures in brackets, that is for previous years. So we've got 2025 is the number in the middle at the top of each box. And then you've got 2024, 2023, 2022 and 2019. Of course, there isn't any 2021 or 2020 because of the pandemic. So I've put a little summary underneath the table that says our outcomes in Wokingham for 2025 were again strong compared to national outcomes. You can see that the Wokingham results are significantly higher than national. And if you compare our Wokingham outcomes to 2019, they are a lot higher than where they were before the pandemic. So that's really positive. The percentage of students who were entered for the GCSE was higher in Wokingham than nationally, although that percentage is declining over the years. Now, at the time I was writing this, I couldn't find the information about the individual schools and how many students they'd entered, but I did then find that information. So out of our 10 secondary schools in Wokingham, there was only 1 school that entered no students for the GCSE. 3 schools entered all or nearly all of their year 11 students for the GCSE. And 1 school entered around half of their year 11s, and the remaining 5 schools, it varied, but they had about 1 class of students they entered. So that's what the data's looking like. Ian has actually provided a hard copy of some more detail, which is one of these documents with the blue boxes on. So there's one that's got a list of our secondary schools, and it's got the percentage of entries. I don't know if you want to talk through this, Ian. I'll share it, yeah.
So this came through from the DFE last Wednesday, and this is the data that's provided to me as your RE advisor. So you have the school name, whether it has a religious character or not, the school type, which we now know, don't know why, it may not be correct from the DFE, but this is lifted direct from the data sent me. You then have, for example, we take St Crispin's School, 11.3% of their children entered the full course for GCSE. So the first column of data is the percentage of pupils in that school who were entered for full course GCSE. The second column is the percentage of pupils who were entered for short course GCSE, which is still available. And then that shows then the third column is Key Stage 4 all entries. So that's an amalgamation of the full course and short course entries. So as Emily said, two schools entered over on this data more than 90% of their cohort. One school entered over 80% of the cohort. And then the penultimate column is the number of children who were entered who received a standard pass to a grade 9. So a grade 4 is a standard pass up to a grade 9. So for example, in one school, 100% of their pupils who entered full course GCSE received a grade 4 or above. And the final column is the percentage of pupils entered for the short course who attained grade 4, which is the standard pass to a grade 9. So that data came through. It is at the moment unvalidated. That was simply emailed to me last week by the DFE as part of their role of sending out information for me.
Okay, Alison.
Sorry. So is this pupils in year 10 and year 11 who were entered for the GCSE?
It could be year 10 and year 11. It's not differentiated from this is literally I've just purely the raw data that I've been sent through by the DFE last week. Yeah.
Okay.
Ian, just to say, I've just noticed,
Yeah.
because I didn't see this document before, but we've got 10 secondary schools in Woking, there's only 8 schools there. So we need to look into the Holt and the Forest, which are currently missing from that. I don't know if Sarah would like to say anything, because her school is the Forest.
We didn't have anybody doing GCSE religious studies last year at all.
So that explains that, and maybe it's the same with the Holt.
I'm a governor
I
on the
thought
Holt, so
they
I can
did
ask.
do it in year 10, I thought.
Yes.
Okay, we can check that.
Yeah.
Neither of those two schools are actually mentioned. I've brought up the email from the DFE in front of me, and neither of those two schools are on the data that I've been sent from the DFE last week.
Philip, you were making
Yeah, just I'm the
points.
governor at the Holt, so if you need me to ask, I'm sure I could ask that question as well if needed.
That'd be useful, I think. Thank you, Philip. Yeah, so the other bit of the annual report I just wanted to highlight was the next section, which is about Ofsted inspection reports. This is on page 7 of the annual report. So Ian did some research and pulled out this information from us. So in the second paragraph, it says that 13 primary, infant and junior schools were inspected during 2024 to 25. 4 of those schools were schools with a religious character, and there were 3 secondary schools that were inspected. So with the primary schools, 5 of the reports mention RE, and 2 out of the 3 reports on secondary schools mention RE. So we've copied there the quotes from the Ofsted reports that mention RE, and the 5 comments about the primary schools are all very positive. The 2 comments about the secondary schools, the first one is really positive. The second one highlights a concern, and this says that at this school, at Key Stage 4, unless students choose to do the GCSE, they are not taught RE, which obviously means the school is not fulfilling its statutory requirement. So what I would say about that is this inspection took place a year ago now, and since that time, it was a school that had a lot of challenges going on, and that school has now been taken over by a new trust in September. From what I hear, there's an awful lot of change being implemented at that school. And my plan is to contact the school and on behalf of the Sacre, assuming you'd like me to, and say, you know, we noticed this in your Ofsted report. We would like to know the current position regarding the teaching of RE. And obviously I could then feed back their response. And then we can decide what to do with that information. If it turns out that they're still not meeting their statutory requirements, it would be an option for us to contact the DFE with a concern about that. I don't know if people want to comment.
Alison.
So is it a regular agenda item at these meetings that if there have been any Ofsted reports, then you highlight these quotes?
That's a good question, because it hasn't been, but what we've recently been doing in the last year or so is it's tended to be an annual thing where we do it in the annual report. But if members would prefer it to be at every meeting, we can do it that way.
Yeah, because my reading of this report does give the impression that this is something that the committee were able to consider during their meetings.
I think that's a very good point. Thank you, Alison, for raising that. Any other comments on the draft annual report? Okay, do you think it's a fair comment about what we are doing? I think it's quite important that people know what we're doing, how we are supporting what goes on in our schools, because that's what we're aiming to do here. Okay. All right, national updates relating to education and RE. Ian.
So I've given you a hard copy of my update for Wokingham Sacre, which is there for colleagues to, or members of the Sacre to read. The Interfaith Week finished last week, but the materials are still available for schools for the next 12 months to the next Interfaith Week if they want to do any interfaith work themselves outside of the interfaith work. It's very interesting that I was due to have a meeting, and I quite have to say this, with the interfaith minister, but 2 days before I was due to have my meeting with him, he got shuffled out of his job. It's also very strange that he's one of my ex-students as well, which makes me feel exceptionally old, but I taught him GCSE in 1996, so that does make me feel absolutely ancient, really. But I will be meeting with the interfaith minister again shortly to talk about that work as well. We've put in the guidance there as well for Sacre members on the new Ofsted framework, and as I say, RE is mentioned in at least is mentioned in the secondary toolkit 3 times, pages 19, 21, and 47, and those inspections have just started. So if people wanted me to look at now they've started, we can look at the framework and for the Ofsted reports coming through. Now they've removed the single word judgment in those areas as well. I put there also, there is on the NATRE website, which is open to everybody to look at, the report card for the state of RE. Within that one, and I've included within the report the national data for GCSE and A-level RE, which has come through as well. It's also talking as well, the report card, about what's happening in terms of the data for the school workforce, but also the idea actually that fewer schools now are not statutory in terms of their RE. But most schools now are, a lot of schools now are teaching Key Stage 4 core RE as required by law. So there is a move towards that one. There's also discussion within there around there as well that actually what is within that report happening with the school workforce data, and I've provided for you as a separate document the colourful blue document, which is actually provided to me, the data for the schools that don't include those other 2 schools because they're not on the list from the DFE. You'll notice that the Bowhunt School in Wokingham has not provided any data. Schools are not required to provide data as part of their census in terms of core teaching hours. However, I have been on the Bowhunt website, and RE is taught in every year group. So I have made sure that I have checked that one. They don't ascertain how much time is given to it, However, there is a curriculum map for years 7 to 11. When I went onto the Oakbank website, that's not been changed since 2021, so I couldn't find any information there. But that may be something that's different now. So I've also been onto the Wangles College website, where it says there's no RE in year 7, 8 and 9, and they do mention an education beliefs. So whether it might be, as Beth said earlier, they're just not really called it RE, but it is there mentioned as well. Yeah, and you say, as you say, your daughter's there as well. So that information is there. So you can see that schools, how much time is given in the curriculum to religious education. The one anomaly is for the maiden early school, where it says 13% of curriculum time is given in year 9, which would probably give it more time than any other subject on the curriculum if they're covering all subjects. I will look at that one and I'll investigate that one as well. It's also interesting on there that comment is made that actually the DFE have removed the bursary for RE trainees. So there is no bursary now going forward for RE trainees for either SCIT or PGCE routes. And Nottingham University have just announced they're closing their theology department. And Birmingham University are closing their PGC in RE because there's not enough people doing it. So there is actually still a recruitment issue, which, given the fact we've now become a national curriculum subject, I don't know if that will change or not. We've put in here as well that there is also funding for 30 teachers working in RE to get funding for professional development through scholarships, and those scholarships are open until the end of January. So this is something that go out to schools. If any RE teacher in a school in England and Wales wishes to take up that opportunity, they can apply to the Farmington Fellowship. There are other fellowships available as well, that's one. There's information as well there on belief in God from YouGov. They've looked at the 2021 census and they've analysed the difference in terms of people saying that they do believe in God or they don't believe in God, so there's some information there. The Muslim Council of Britain have put forward some data from the 2021 census on the diversity of the Muslim community within the UK. It's interesting. There is also, until the end of this calendar year, ex-university Rob Freethy and Ruth Flanagan are surveying the right of withdrawal in RE. The right of withdrawal in RE is very interesting. Nothing's been made reference to in the curriculum and assessment review about the right of withdrawal, but in Wales, the religion and values education curriculum has removed the right of withdrawal. So parents cannot withdraw their children from the teaching of RVE in Wales. And in Northern Ireland, there is a case at the Supreme Court around withdrawal in RE at the moment. So it is an interesting, it is a discussion at the moment. So there is a survey for schools to fill in around the right of withdrawal and perception of it for ex-university report on those ones. The RE Hub, and I can't tell you who your RE Hub lead is because they're just about to appoint a new one, so that's quite interesting. They have information for schools and for Sacres available for people to attend their meetings, and there is this week and next week information for Sacre members and Sacre advisors to go to if they wish to meet with their hub leads.
Sorry,
for updates.
what are you talking about?
The RE Hub is a funded project by the Religious Education Policy Unit and the RE Council, where they fund in the old government office areas. So there's 8 of them, so North West, East Midlands, West Midlands, a lead that pulls together visits, visitors, CPD.
You mean RE Hubs?
RE Hubs, yeah.
Oh, RE Hubs.
Hubs, yeah, yeah. I've put in there as well the examination data nationally for A-level and GCSE, and also NASACRE training that's available to colleagues on the SACRE for you to have a look at. And as I say, we have the NASACRE and conversation session this week and next week. And then the school census data is the information that I provided as a separate document, which unfortunately came through on Wednesday last week. 81% of schools have responded to this. The 19% have not, because it's not yet a legal requirement, but they must publish on their website data around how much time is given to RE, and 42% of schools in 2024-25 say they offered less than 3%. Now in 2023-24, that was 46%. So we can see there is an increase in teaching time in secondary schools for RE of those that have reported this one. So that is an improvement that's happening over those ones. And actually 81% of schools with a religious character are offering more than 3% of curriculum time in line with their Trust Deed Foundation status. So all that information is there that can then be given to members of the Sacre and sent out to schools if you wanted to as well.
Yeah.
All of the hyperlinks in there, and I've sent a copy as a Word document to both Emily and Luciana to send out to members. All the hyperlinks are working because I've tested them all for them.
Okay.
So none of them will say they're broken.
Thank you, Ian. Sorry, Sarah.
You mentioned about the right to withdrawal. I wondered about the issue with regard to teachers being directed to teach as non-specialists the subject, whether or not that's going to be changed in any shape or form.
At the moment, we've not heard anything. So the right of withdrawal still applies to parents and carers up to the age of 18 and to pupil students after the age of 18. But the right of withdrawal is still in legislation at the moment, Sarah, for teachers to say they don't wish to teach RE. There's no indication yet about any changes. They've not mentioned that in anything. And there was an in conversation with the curriculum assessment review the other day, and they did not mention that either. They've just mentioned the curriculum rather than the right of withdrawal.
Yeah, because obviously for people around the table to realise is that teachers, that's the one subject that the head teacher cannot direct a teacher to teach religious education in a school. They can refuse to do that. So obviously if it comes in, well, when it comes in as a core subject, that will have potential knock-on effects if they leave it in or they take it out. It has an effect one way or the other.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking at the examination results that you've put in here, so thank you for that. It looks like at GCSE level, there's a fairly even split between males and females in terms of numbers taking it. But when you get to A level, there's literally half the males taking it compared to the females. Is there any knowledge as to what's driving that behaviour?
Yeah. In terms of the GCSE, a number of schools, and we can see that in the data for the Wokingham schools, for example, with look at this one, Bow Hunt and with Maiden Early, if that's how that's correctly. A lot of schools will enter all their children for Key Stage 4 GCSE RE to ensure that they are covering their legal requirements. So in my own school, every pupil did full course GCSE, and then it became an optional choice at A level. So a lot of schools now are requiring all pupils to do GCSE because it has to be on the curriculum, and they feel it's important that their children get something at the end of it. So I think that's why we see much more equality amongst the sexes at GCSE and then changes at A level. And I think there has been work in the past around trying to attract boys to GCSE to A level RE, but doesn't seem to have much impact at the moment. But I think the GCSE data is skewed by the fact that a number of schools do require all their pupils to take the subject at GCSE for an examination.
Okay, so it's then driven by choice is what's impacting at A level. Okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Shade?
Just picking up, the point which you raised that the funding has been stopped, right, for RE specialist teachers. In light of what you were saying before, actually it doesn't tally up. Basically, it doesn't make any sense. On the one side, you're making this as a core subject, which means assumption is just like other science subjects. So the teachers need to be specialist teachers. And then you're making this a core subject, but the supply of the teachers is going to be limited as a result of that. And then you might get teachers, RE teachers, who may not be fully qualified to teach, right? And the quality of the teaching will be impacted. I mean, it makes it's a common sense, right? There's a disconnect here, if they are thinking that way. But I'm just thinking through our links. I'm sure this will be raised, but let's not make that assumption. That point has been made. Can we not actually write to our representative to say, look, this is a concern from our point of view, and this should be raised at the highest level? Then make sure this disconnect doesn't appear, because you can think just down the line, actually the problem is going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, I think, as I say, for this academic year, there is no bursary. Whether that changes for 26, 27, I don't know. It will be interesting to find out, because people are applying for PGC courses now at the end of their degree, or for school-centred initial teacher training. It has been brought up in the House of Lords, it has been brought up in the House of Commons to try and reinstate the bursary for RE. At the moment, it's not got anywhere. So maybe, as I say, if we look into those ones, but as you say, if it's going to be a national curriculum subject, there would need to be more teachers of RE. And
But would that attract more teachers potentially?
It may do, yes. Yeah.
But because of the lack of funding.
And it will also mean that, I mean, I spend one day of my week now training new teachers. Sounds strange enough, I have 2 people on my training course. I spend a day a week with 2 people, which can be quite interesting. They're lovely people and we get on really, really well. But the issue is that they're really keen to do it, but because there's no national curriculum, I'm having to train them to teach any RE anywhere in the country. When there is a national curriculum, that will also support PGC providers, initial teacher trainers, on delivering a curriculum that meets. And Emily and I were talking, I spent 4 hours last week training my trainees how to teach numeracy through RE. Somebody said, what are you doing, counting Bibles? I went, no, that's not what we do. But the idea is that actually, if there's a national curriculum, it will give focus to the training of teachers, which at the moment is very generic, because you could be working in any part of the country. I trained to teach in Leeds. I taught the majority of my career in Lancashire and in Manchester, with 2 very different degree syllabuses.
But you're absolutely right. But the point I'm making is you need to have the people to teach in the first place, right? And if they're not coming through, doesn't matter what the content is, there's no one to teach. So that's where I'm.
Shira.
Yeah, I mean, the generalised knowledge to have the literacy about religions and that wouldn't apply. Whatever curriculum, you'd hope a knowledgeable teacher would be able to adapt to different syllabuses. Are you suggesting that we as Sacre write a letter to a local MP saying that we're concerned about this?
I think we should use our influence to make sure that our voices are heard and concerns are addressed heard at the highest level. Yes, and if it's that member of parliament, it could be our representative as well, and we should use all our resources and contacts.
Do you want to write a letter and then circulate it around the Sacre?
No, I'm saying it could be a joint, or it could be across the Berkshire as well. Maybe have a better, more voice and stronger voice. So I think individually it doesn't make any sense, but as a Berkshire wide, probably have a more stronger voice.
But at the moment, we don't have a Berkshire-wide organisation. So if we're going to make a representation, it would have to be done as this Sacre.
But it could be shared.
We could be shared. We can encourage people to do this. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll have a word afterwards, Emily. Any other points to raise? If not, dates of the next meeting, 9th of February and the 8th of June. If anyone has any objections to those, sorry, I've missed out 11. Samantha isn't here to give her verbal report on that. Dates of the next meeting, 9th of February, 8th of June. If anyone has any objections to those dates, please let us know as quickly as possible. And then any other business? Is there any other business? Philip?
Don't know whether this is the right thing to bring up or not, but Emily does some fantastic work with the team at Wokingham around racial equity. I attended their first conference. Well, no, they've done a number of conferences. I attended it for the first time last week, Wokingham Borough's racial equity work for schools. And I just wondered whether there is some type of crossover potentially to talk about what is being done in Wokingham, in Sacre, seeing as we are a community of different backgrounds in this group, where there might be a crossover at some point to talk about the work that Wokingham doing around racial equity. I don't, not to add to your workload or everything you do anyway, but I just thought it'd be nice to, just to share and celebrate what Wokingham are doing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that at the next meeting if people would find that useful.
Yeah, assuming we don't end up overloaded on the agenda. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for sticking this out. It's been a long one, but I think it's been quite fruitful. And I look forward to seeing you in February. And thanks very much again.